Welcome to Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Kate Harper of the 61st Legislative District in Montgomery County, and we're coming to you today from the Montgomery County Community College, where along with several of my colleagues in the House, we have a Veterans Expo. We're trying to get veterans organizations and veterans together to share information and connections of things that are important to them. I'm so grateful to the Montgomery County Community College for hosting the event, and with me today is Dr. Anne-Marie Donahue, who advises the Students Veterans Organization here, which is quite robust, at the Montgomery County Community College. Now, Anne-Marie, if you could tell us what the Veterans Organization does.
The Veterans Organization provides an opportunity, first of all, for veterans to get together with one another and to connect with people with whom they have something in common, as people have served in the military. The group may at times advocate for legislation on behalf of veterans, help veterans to network with either employers or resources such as the ones you have here. And thank you so much for bringing all these folks to campus, because this will go on beyond today. Our folks will be gathering information and sharing it with others. They will at times participate in service projects, perhaps at the Vet Center or other areas serving homeless veterans and fellow veterans. They work with other clubs on the campus in their service projects. Basically, it's whatever their creativity and interest takes them to do.
Well, I have heard from Dr. Links, your interim president, that there are about 600 veterans on campus. That seems huge.
We do have a substantial number of veterans. I don't know that it's how many exactly, so that would have to come from somebody else. But the veteran population has been growing. I actually thought it was less than that myself, so I'd have to check that out. But the population's been growing certainly since 2003, 2004. Like any college, the population of student veterans had been low for the decades since the Vietnam cohort went through. And most places kind of pulled back on veteran services. In the last 10 years or so, we've all had to become more responsive, and this college has responded wonderfully to be aware of the special needs and concerns of our student veterans and try to meet them and welcome them by giving them what they need and what they deserve.
So you would say the Montgomery County Community College is a veteran-friendly campus?
I would definitely say that. We offer special orientations for student veterans, and one of the things I'm proudest of is our collaboration with community groups, with the Disabled American Veterans, with the Montgomery County Vet Center, that we try to work as a team, all of us, and refer back and forth for each other's services, and I think it just makes a more coherent base of support for veterans. It can be very fragmented for them when they come home. You see all these different groups and resources, but where do you find out about them? And we try to be a place that people can come no matter what they need, and we may not provide it, but we will know who does, or we'll find out who does.
Well, and that's one of the purposes of this event, so I encourage you and your friend here to go to visit the other tables and pick up the information. We also have a comprehensive list of everybody who's here today that you can keep in the office.
That is wonderful, and that's exactly what I was about to do. So I will be going to visit and gather information to share.
Well, thank you very much. We were also fortunate enough to have Congressman Meehan here, and so we're going to hear from Congressman Meehan and my colleague, Representative Tom Murt from the Willow Grove area of Montgomery County. Representative Murt is a veteran of Iraqi freedom, and he has important things to share as well. We'll go to that now.
Well, thank you so much, Kate, and thank you, Dr. Links, and all of the folks here at Montgomery County Community College who once again have housed this important forum. But it's not just what you do on this day, it's the recognition of the number of returning veterans who are continuing their education, taking the skills that they have developed from their years in the military and getting the education that allows them to apply that to the private sector. I can't tell you how many times when you hear people who are saying, I'm just looking for good employees, how frequently they say, and the first and highest priority in my mind, this is the employers, is getting a veteran, not just because of the debt that we owe to each and every one of you, but because they know from your experience the ability to work as part of a unit and to deliver a quality performance. And so the continuation of that educational opportunity and connection back to the workforce, which is so central here to Montgomery County Community College. And I don't think anything personifies it better than the facility that is situated on the other end of the campus, which we've all had a chance to visit, which is exclusively dedicated to veterans and veterans alone. I'm so admire that commitment by the college and appreciate that effort. Veterans continue to be an important constituency for us. I am very proud that I have been able to continue the tradition since my first moment of my election. We have always had at least one veteran as part of our staff, sometimes two, including wounded warriors who have worked with us in the cooperative program. And I continue to have Bill Dondero is here today. Bill is over here. He's a distinguished veteran in his own right, but I'm very grateful for my elected colleagues here, and frankly from both sides of the aisle. But you see today, these particular elected colleagues, we share this jurisdiction. I like to say in Montgomery County, we represent center field in the, if you look at the county as a whole, we went right up the middle of it. And we are there because many of these issues clearly are federal issues in terms of things you need to do with VA benefits or other kinds of questions. And I encourage the outreach to our office so that we can be helpful to you in any matters of importance. Veterans, I always stand in awe of, and I had the chance just the other day to sit with a guy who's a Navy SEAL. His name is Kevin Steedham, and he was a remarkable person to speak with, but what was even the more remarkable was his discussion about his brother, Robert. Robert became the symbol for something that we undertook just last week, and I have partnered with Senator Toomey in the introduction into Congress you may have seen yesterday. And I'm not making a political statement here. This is focused first on the service to those who are true victims. We've lost a number of veterans over the years to terrorism. And some of that terrorism has been Iranian-sponsored. And there are over 80 lawsuits that have been filed, and they have been successfully awarded over $43.5 billion in damages. Robert Steedham, Kevin Steedham's brother, was the chief petty officer on the TWA flight out from Athens, and people may remember he was tortured and murdered in the plane, and his body was thrown on the tarmac after there was a hijacking by Hezbollah, Iran-sponsored. Here we are so many years later. He has won a $359 million judgment that still has not been realized. Iran hasn't paid 1 cent. And so the bill that we introduced, which passed the House yesterday with a strong bipartisan majority, says that under the act, if this moves through, the current agreement with Iran, Iran stands to gain close to $100 billion or more of assets that will be returned that are currently frozen. And our legislation says, before you return 1 penny to Iran, and we fear that some of that's going to go in to foment more terror, you pay every single penny of the judgments that are owed, many to veterans who gave their lives serving our nations at Khobar Towers, at the Marine Barracks, in Beirut, and many other places. I was proud to have a strong support of the of a bipartisan majority yesterday in the House. This bill will run in the Senate. I hope it gets to the president's desk. We cannot forget many are waiting 15, 30 years for resolution. I also appreciated, and it's something that's so important because the groups here are tied to this. As a former prosecutor, we used to see the veterans coming into the criminal justice system dealing with the issues of PTSD and other kinds of stress-related associations from their service. Some 2, 3, and 4 tours that they have given us, and then they come back and try to acclimate themselves to life. And you just know you just don't walk right back in without some issues. Sometimes those issues would manifest themselves in people acting out in certain ways. Maybe a guy has a few too many drinks in a bar because he's trying to bury that and he gets into a fist fight. The next thing you know, he's been arrested. The next thing you know, he's in a court looking at an assault charge, potential felony. And here we are we going to lock this guy up? So we began the creation, and Montgomery County has been terrific in this with Risa Furman and the DA's office. The first time in the history of the country, working with some of my colleagues, we've been able to institute not only support for, but the creation through the Department of Justice, support for the Veterans Treatment Courts. This moves veterans as a special class on appropriate cases into alternative situations in which we can get them to use the criminal justice system, not to put them into a jail cell, but to use the leverage of that. And oftentimes we have other veterans serving as their buddies, making sure that we route them back through the treatment services at the VA centers and others, so that we can help them deal with the underlying issues that they've got, often related to the traumatic stress, and that we can get them in a productive sense to return to society without all of the associations that you can get with criminal charges. And those courts have grown incrementally across Pennsylvania, and with Pennsylvania's leadership and the ability for us to get bipartisan support in Congress, they are now nationally recognized. Very, very proud of that. I was also proud, that was something that we focused on and drove the bus on, so to speak, but of course Congress in the larger part, things come from many places. I was proud to be part of, although this was very much a congressional bipartisan effort. So folks from both sides, but the Clay Hunt Veterans Save Act was passed in this Congress earlier this year, and it focused again on the issue of veteran suicide. Still dramatically too many vets who return again with the same issues. And we're seeing more and more some of those veterans feel hopeless and are committing suicide at a rate much higher than the normal. This would increase the ability for there to be the mental health treatment and access through the VA system and otherwise for those heroes. And the bipartisan support in Congress was something that I was proud to be part of. I'll close my comments in saying that you love to see things when they're working right. And ideally, we all work together, as you do with the NGOs and other kinds of community service organizations and private employers, all collectively trying to do things in which we can work together with the veterans. Sometimes things don't work as well as we'd like them to. There are good people in the systems no matter where they are, but you may see that we have had some issues with veterans organizations, particularly the VA across the country. I will tell you that my experience here in the Philadelphia region is that there are very many very good people working at the VA, and they are trying to do the best job that they can. But we have had some problems, and we've had some problems with oversight. We've had some problems with manipulation of data, and the manipulation of the data relates to the idea that veterans are not getting the timely service that they need, both at the benefits center with respect to accurate and timely response to the applications and the information, and in fact at the VA center, in which people need timely access to the health care that they have been promised and particularly need. So in both cases, we are working with our friends on the Veterans Affairs Committee with appropriate oversight, and again, as I said, there's a lot of good people within the system trying to do the right thing. What we need to do is make sure that we match leadership with that spirit and get the veterans the service that they deserve in the timely fashion and fulfill the promises that we've made. I am so grateful to Kate for her continuing sponsorship and leadership of this. Kate just not only talks the talk, so to speak, she walks the walk in the sense that she is the proud mother of a service member who has proudly served our nation in uniform. And so when she speaks as somebody who wears it in her heart and on her right on her shoulder. So thank you for what each and every one of you has done in service to our country, those who have served, and thank you to each and every one of you who support our brave men and women, our warfighters who have served both here and overseas. I'm delighted to become part of it and continue to be part of it and look forward to this continuing work and relationship so we can serve those who have served us. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for coming out, and thank you to Representative Harper for her leadership and her sponsorship of the program today. I'll just tell you that I am a veteran. I served in Iraq for 14 months. I was a reservist, got called active duty. Believe it or not, I was 44 when I was deployed. And That's probably when my hair turned all gray, it's when I was sent overseas. But that was 2003 and 4 at the beginning of Operation Iraqi Freedom. And I had been a reservist for a long time, and sometimes you think you're never going to be called. And so when I was called back then, it was a very hard transition. I had to leave my wife and my 3 children and become a soldier for 14 months, although we didn't know how long it was going to be. And it was, it was the hand of God. I kept thinking, why would they want someone my age in combat? But I was deployed to Tikrit. I was assigned to the 4th Infantry Division, which is a pretty high-speed, elite regular Army unit. And, we did our duty. I was assigned to do a lot of humanitarian work, civil affairs kind of work, and I came home safe. But I'm glad Congressman Meehan mentioned the VA, because I used the VA clinic in Horsham, and I used the hospital down at 34th and Woodland. And I agree with what he said. The hospital, the facility is staffed by very dedicated, devoted professionals, and I have absolutely no complaint of how I've been treated. And when that scandal, we'll call it, broke a while back, a lot of people in the media were calling me saying, hey, what's your experience? And I said, I don't have anything bad to say. It's been a good experience for me, but if somebody wasn't telling the truth about the numbers, I know it wasn't the doctors and the nurses and the caregivers and the people that are here today. So the VA system isn't perfect, but it's much better than it was years ago. Congressman Meehan also mentioned about some of our veterans that have gotten in trouble, have gotten involved in the criminal justice system. Sadly, 10% of the inmates in America are veterans. 10% of the inmates in Graterford Prison are veterans. I've visited with them many times, and I'll be going out there on Veterans Day. And this is really a very, very serious problem. And a lot of what has happened is many of our veterans who have served in combat and come back with post-traumatic stress or other anxiety conditions that are related to their deployment or being in combat have gotten themselves in trouble. And fortunately, we have a veterans court, but sometimes that hasn't prevented some of these veterans from being incarcerated. And we have to do our very, very best to get them back on track. Believe it or not, one of the more senior members or inmates at Graterford is a gentleman who served in the Battle of the Eardrang Valley, the battle that was depicted in We Were Soldiers Once. And when I went out and I met with him, and I know he wouldn't mind me telling you his name is Comer Glass. He's originally from North Philadelphia. He served in that battle and saw a lot of combat, and he came back and he did some bad things, and he's been in jail ever since. And he is a leading advocate, not for his own freedom or emancipation from Graterford Prison, but he wants to make sure that there's programs and services that are available for the younger veterans that are coming back. And that is a population that we absolutely positively have to serve better. President Calvin Coolidge once said that a nation that forgets its veterans will itself be forgotten. And that is something that we have to remember. We absolutely have to invest more in our veterans. I was always astounded at how quickly we could mobilize and send troops overseas, and we have money for all that. But when they come back and they have problems, whether it's post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injury or one of the other conditions that manifest themselves in many of our veterans, we sometimes are very, very slow to help those men and women. I just want to mention for a split second, because you've been very patient, but I want to talk about some of the things that we're doing in Harrisburg to help our veterans. We know in Harrisburg that probably the top 3 concerns of veterans that are coming home are jobs, job training, or education, and employment opportunities. And much of the legislation that we have been moving in Harrisburg seems to circulate around those themes. One special population that deserves mention is our females that have been serving in our military. Of all the soldiers, Marines, sailors, airmen, and Coast Guardsmen that have been deployed in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, 250,000 have been females. And this is kind of another issue, but sometimes I chuckle or smirk when I hear about people saying, I don't know if women can serve in combat. I've served in combat with women. Women are already serving in combat. We know they serve in combat. But one of the things that we don't always consider is the very unique conditions, and responses that females have to post-traumatic stress. And we have some legislation in Harrisburg, a House resolution that establishes a women's task force on health care in Pennsylvania to look at those issues. And there's also a House Bill 264, which we want to send to Congress to require them or encourage them to look at the health, social, and the economic needs of female veterans. This is a special population that their needs are a little bit different than the male veterans, and it's something that we have to follow up on. In Pennsylvania alone, we have 80,000 females who are veterans. 80,000. That's a pretty significant number, and that number is going to grow by the end of the next couple of years. We also have some legislation called Combat to College program, which sets standards for institutions of higher learning, both colleges and vocational and technical schools, to be friendly to veterans, to work with veterans, to make sure that they have priority registration. They can go through registration first with student athletes and with honor students, that they don't have to wait until the end of the line. That's long overdue. And we also want to make sure that there's people on the staff at institutions of higher learning. They're going to be able to help our veterans negotiate the system, to connect to their VA benefits and make sure that they're getting all the benefits to which they're entitled. And one other piece of legislation that I want to mention has to do with real estate taxes, our favorite topic. In Pennsylvania, the only way a veteran can get any break on the real estate taxes is if you were 100% disabled. So if you're 90% disabled and you're not able to work, you don't get any break on your real estate taxes. This is wrong. We have many disabled veterans that should be entitled to some kind of discount on the real estate taxes as a result of their service to our nation. And this is something on which we are working right now, and we are hopeful to get this to the finish line sometime during this legislative session. So thank you very much for coming out today. Thank you very much for the vendors. I've been picking up some literature myself. I'm very happy to bring it back to my office. I do want to mention that the Disabled American Veterans mobile van will be at my office next Thursday on October 10th, I think that is. 8th, I'm sorry, October 8th. At our office in Hatboro, and they'll be there all day. So if anyone wants to access the DAV, the mobile van will be there with 2 counselors, and they'll have access to all the computers and so forth. One last thing I want to mention. The program that Nancy Becker does in Montgomery County is a flagship program. This is a program that no other recorder of deeds does in the entire country, to my knowledge. And I just think that this program is, I know my own needs as a veteran, and I'm just so happy to know that somebody on the county level will record those DD-214s for posterity and know that they are always going to be there, and to know that we can get that ID card if we need it. So Nancy, keep up the good work. Take care. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
I'm here now, still at the Veterans Expo, with the Recorder of Deeds for Montgomery County, Nancy Becker. Nancy's office has been working on a very important project to encourage veterans to record their DD-214s or their DD-214s, their discharge papers, at the Recorder of Deeds office. And she's got a really neat program going with an incentive. So Nancy, could you tell the viewers a little bit about what you do at the Recorder's office?
Okay, part of the charge of the Recorder of Deeds office is to record the veterans' discharges. When our forefathers designed our government, they basically said that the veterans' discharges were very important, should be kept for posterity. So they put them in the Land Records Office, which is why the Recorder of Deeds got them. So we do record the DD-214s. It's very important for the veteran to record it, because when a veteran passes, often the funeral director will contact our office to get the information so that they can arrange for a military funeral and also for any veterans' benefits.
And I know, personally speaking, how difficult it is to find that little piece of paper when you're trying to plan a funeral, for a father or a grandfather. So if they've recorded their DD-214 at your office, it can be found there?
Absolutely. All they have to do, the funeral director usually gets a copy of it within an hour, so it's really fast. And again, when somebody passes, their loved ones have no idea where these papers are. So it's very important. But in order to encourage veterans to come in and do it, we started a program in 2012 where we also issue a photo ID card. That photo ID card gives the veteran discounts and incentives at almost 500 Montgomery County businesses. And so it's very important for them to come in. When we started the program in 2012, since then we've recruited almost 6,000 veterans. So we really want, especially in this interesting economy that we have, for the veterans to have every benefit of having discounts that they so rightly deserve.
Well, that sounds like a great program and something that we all encourage our family members to do. Find the DD-214 and take it to the Recorder of Deeds office. This is State Representative Kate Harper, and that's all the time we have for today's program. If you have a question about this or any other state government matter, please call me at my Bluebell office. We're happy to help you and happy to connect you with any of the people you met today. Thanks for watching. Join me again for Legislative Report.